All right, so this is Sarah Johnson from the I'm the co-chair of the Education Subcommittee, and Gina Gambag. Oh gosh, darn it.
Gambacordo. Yep.
Gambacordo. I've been practicing too. Gambacordo will be presenting today. She's the other co-chair, and we had a fantastic team to work on this updated annual survey. So I want to say thank you to Sydney and from Minnesota, Gabe in Colorado, Jordan and Jennifer in Iowa, and Donovan in Tennessee. It was a group effort with lots of comments from lots of people, which is awesome because I feel like that means people are committed to providing good and accurate data. Otherwise, they would have just been quiet. So I appreciate all those comments. We tried to incorporate a lot of them, but not all of them made it this year, but you never know. So I'm going to start off by let everybody know it's being recorded. If you have questions, you can ask either Gina or myself or your regional rep or alternate too as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Gina and turn off my audio. All right.
Thanks, Sarah, for the introduction. And again, I just wanted to echo Sarah's thank you to the team of individuals that went together on to update this annual survey. If you have any questions as we're going through the presentation, please type them into the chat just that you don't forget about those questions. And then hopefully I'll get through this so that we will have ample time for Q&A at the end. So this is just a run through about what this presentation is going to cover. So one, why we collect the annual data, where to find the survey, the overview of the new tool being used. I know in the past we have used SurveyMonkey and we have moved over to Qualtrics, so I'll explain a little bit of that. And then there are some new questions this year. So for the most part, the survey is very similar to what you are used to with SurveyMonkey. Even though it is a new software being used, it's relatively the same. So just beware of those new questions. So we will definitely highlight those. And then of course, we'll be showcasing a survey walkthrough just so that you can kind of get a little bit more familiarized with the survey format. So the importance of data collection. So for the past 10 years, the National SBEAP program facilitates an effort for states to report their program's annual outputs, outcomes, and other activities such as success stories. We've been collecting data for longer than that with EPA's assistance, but at least since 2015, this is something that the NSC has been doing exclusively. And we do want to remind everyone that this isn't done as a way to compare states. This is just done so that we can see collectively as a program throughout the nation what we are doing, where we can see where our strengths are and where we can see where we have some opportunities for growth. And it helps us better know at the national level different presentation topics that we can be working on, different information that we might all be able to use and pool our resources together so that we can better aid the businesses in our individual states. So where to find the survey? So these are just kind of like a walkthrough step by step. First, you would go to the National Small Business Environmental Assistance Program webpage. From there, there's a green bar. Also, side note, I will be walking to the webpage, so everything that we're walking through here, I will again show you step by step. But so number two is there's a green bar on the title page. If you hover over the third option, it's labeled SBEAP Resources. So go ahead, hover right over it, and then you click on the first option that says Annual Report. Once you're on that page, the online form is linked in both the first and the second paragraph. And then the PDF version is linked in the third. The PDF version is mainly there as a tool for you to kind of like look through and sample the questions that we're going to be asked. You can answer the questions on that form for your own internal data. But please do remember to click the online tool because that is how we are actually able to pull that information. So the PDF is not a way for you to submit your annual data. It's just a way for you to record. And then when you're ready, go into the online tool and then finally submit that information to us. This is the direct webpage link. I believe that we will be hosting this presentation on the Educational Subcommittee webpage. So that link is mainly there for future use. But again, we will be going through the steps. So survey tool being used. We are currently using Qualtrics. It is a web-based software that allows the user to create surveys and generate reports. And again, we want to thank our Iowa SBEAP team for hosting the survey for us. So thank you to everyone over at Iowa that made this possible for us. We definitely could not have done it without them, especially Jordan Burrows. I know that we were emailing her quite a lot in the previous like three months, I would say, about creating this. So thank you so much. So again, the main difference, we used to use SurveyMonkey and now we're using Qualtrics, but as you'll see, it's very, very similar to what we are used to. Okay, so this is the main part that we're going to spend most of our time. I want to definitely highlight the new questions that are being asked because there are quite a few. So as you're going through question 4, this is exactly as they're written on the survey. Small Business Ombudsman, SBO contact and organizational information. We have asked for SBO information before, but now we specifically want to know, do they work in the same organization as you? I know for like Sarah, for example, she both is the SB personnel and the ombudsman, or are they at a completely different entity than the department that it is that you're working for? We want to collect their individual contact information here, just to have a little bit more information there. And then question 9, what additional projects does the NSBEAP support or oversee? And then we have options for you to select all that apply. So we do know this is a little bit different than asking if you're multimedia. This is us also trying to figure out what exactly does your work entail outside of just the typical day in the life of an SBEAP. Any additional projects that is also taking your time, what is considered SBEAP in your state specifically. So we're just trying to capture that additional work that's being done there because we do know that a lot of us are doing more than just the traditional air regs and helping out in that capacity. Question 10, what additional tasks are assigned to the SBO in relation to small business? Again, that's a select all that apply. Question 11, does your SBEAP offer air only or multimedia assistance? Check all media served and list other topics. So in the brackets, this is not something that would be listed as you're going through the survey. I put those brackets in there just to explain. We have asked something very similar in the past, but we offer more options now for your answers just because we've realized from just pooling different people's opinions and takes on this that we weren't really capturing all the different multimedias that are out there. So we wanted to make it more expansive for everybody. Question 15. Please indicate the number of followers, subscribers that you have on each of the following platforms where applicable. And then we have those listed platforms for you under that question. And then again, in the brackets, I have that this is a social media question. So before we used to ask this question, but it wasn't specific to each version of social media that you could have, to each application that you might be using. So again, we just made that more expansive to try to collect more data there. Question 16, please specify the number of posts made on each of the following platforms this year, where applicable. So this used to be included in the other outreach, but now it is captured by itself. So we want to make sure exactly the type of content and the type of outreach that's being captured there. Question 20, does your program translate publications and materials? Question 22, what types of EJ support does your program provide? Check all that apply. EJ standing for environmental justice. Question 23, what languages do you translate to? Question 24, for translated publications, how did your program translate them? Select all that apply. Question 25, how does your program determine which language should be translated? Select all that apply. So I ran through the last ones a little bit quick just because I want to make note of certain things. So there is smart logic that will be used during the survey. So for question 19, if no is selected, it will automatically put you to question 20. If yes is selected, it will put you to question 21. So again, when you're looking at the PDF version of this, obviously it doesn't do that automatic skip, but there is a note in there where it will let you know. It'll say note, logic. If you just said no to question 19, go to question 20. If you said yes, go to question 21. But while you're in Qualtrics using the online tool, that would just automatically be done for you. In a similar fashion for question 20, if no is selected, you skip to 26. And if yes is selected, you skip to 23. For question 22, If translation of publication is selected, you continue to question 23. And if translation of publication is not selected, you skip to question 26. So that way, you're not being asked, if you already say, no, we don't translate anything, we're not going to ask you, how did you figure out which languages to translate to? And you're not going to be, not applicable. We're just trying to make it as simple and possible to keep the flow going. So again, if you have more questions about these new questions being asked, definitely type them into the chat now so that you don't forget, but we will have time for that at the end of the presentation. So this is a survey walkthrough. Right here is just a screenshot of kind of what I was describing back a few slides ago of how you would access the online tool. So this is a screenshot of what our home welcoming page looks like on the National NSBEAP website. This is that third option in the green bar that I was referencing. And if you hover over it, that first choice is the annual report. But now I'm going to click to the hyperlink, which it does exactly that. You all should be looking at the NSBEAP web page now. So just somebody confirm me if that is in fact that the screen did what it was supposed to do and that you're no longer looking at the presentation, but in fact the web page. Thank you. Thanks so much. All right. So then I'll click on annual report. And this is what I was kind of describing in the narrative earlier, is that listed twice, we have the online data collection tool in the first and second paragraphs. And then right there in the third paragraph, you can see the PDF form. All right, so everybody should now be looking at the survey. If I can get another little thumbs up, that would be great, just to make sure that it is translating well. Awesome, thank you. So I'm going to try my best to not answer any questions on this because I do not want to throw off any of our data that is being collected. But you can see the first question is very similar to what we're used to. Is the data you are sharing based on a calendar year or fiscal year? You click the one that would be appropriate to you. You fill out the information for whoever the person is that's filling out the form. So it's your name, where you work, your work email address, your work phone number. And then this is NSBEAP contact. So that could be the same contact information as the person filling out the form. If you would want it to be another team member's information, that you very well could have somebody else's team member's information listed here as well. And this is where we ask for the specific SBO contact information. Does your state have a compliance advisory? We would ask right there. If it's active, if it's equivalent, neither. The budget. Is your budget based on the fiscal year or the calendar year? How many full-time employees? See, these are all very similar questions. They should all be very familiar to everybody. So what additional projects do you oversee? That's one of our new ones. And then we do have an other option. I know for New Jersey's and other projects that Maxwell Graham works on is our regional greenhouse gas and reporting rule. And he does a lot with HVAC and refrigeration. So this would be one that for New Jersey, we would have something additional to add. What additional tasks are assigned to the SBO in relation to small business? Does your NSBEAP offer air-only or multimedia assistance? Again, this is a similar one. We just added some additional options for you. Please provide the best estimates counts for each type of assistance activity for the year. So again, that's trying to figure out how many site visits you do, how much direct permit assistance was there, if there was any new guidance documents that you created, any sort of publications. Just trying to collect all that information here. This is another similar question that we've had in the past, just asking about any webinars and workshops that you've put on, any email campaigns that you've had, any YouTube videos that you might have created. And then here is the newer question about trying to collect individual followers for each of the platforms that you may have. And then again, the number of posts that were made on those platforms. So one, we're collecting followers and subscribers. One, we're collecting the amount of actual content that was being pushed out. And then the website number, this is something that we've been asked in the past as well. And then if you have any staff that has 15 or more years experience with NSBEAP, and then click next. Oh, see, I think that this is already filled out from one time when I tried to do like a testing of this. This is why I'm like, I'm trying not to click anything so that I don't mess up the data on the back end. But if you were to click yes, then this is the other questions that it would then prompt you to answer. So what language do you translate to? We have two of our most popular autofilled, and then you do have the option to type in other. For translated publications, how did your program translate them? So again, we have a few common answers that might get picked, and then we have the other option as well. How does your program determine which languages should be translated to? Similar, we tried to fill out what we're anticipating common answers might be, but then we also gave that other option. And then these are optional questions. We understand that you might not have a case study to upload, but if you do have a case study to upload, we would love to have that data. And then I believe if we click next again, that's when it'll be the submittal page. So, yep. So I'm sorry to Jordan and team for this blank submittal. But as you can see, it is a pretty automatic type of software. So now we're back into the regular presentation that you should be seeing, but that is the walkthrough of Qualtrics. So if you have that information on hand and you know the answers, so again, I would definitely reference the PDF version of the survey first so that you can collect all of your information and know exactly what you're going to type in. It should be relatively easy and fast to actually do the online form because you're just plugging in those answers. And it's just 2 pages that you have to go through, and then it would automatically submit and we would be able to collect that data. So now is a good opportunity for any questions. And then if you do have questions after this presentation is over, again, you can contact your regional representative or alternate. You can find the list on the National NSBEAP webpage. I have the exact link to where you would find that list. And then you can also reach out to Sarah or I, and we would be happy to help you. But yeah.
All right. This is Sarah, and I'll help you through the questions, Gina. You ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the first question was about the other and whether or not you can put multiple answers in any place that we say other. And Jordan was able to answer that you can definitely, if just put a comma after each other, so it will fill that space. So if we're missing a lot of things, just let us know and we can fix that on next year.
Okay.
And then the other question I'll let you answer is the social media. Is it specific for your NSBEAP program only or the whole organization?
It's specific to your NSBEAP program only. So for example, I help create posts for we call it the Sustainability Innovation Program. But because we're highlighting projects that their team directly works on, I would not count that for NSBEAP outreach for us specifically. But for example, when my group worked on a social media campaign for Small Business Week, that's something that I would definitely want to include, just so that I'm helping keep it accurate, because I think over the past year, if I'm remembering correctly, because I just had to do it for a different like internal report, I think we maybe made like 55 Facebook posts specifically for our Bureau of Sustainability. But of those 55, not all of them were for NSBEAP. So I wouldn't want to say that I made, 55 Facebook posts for NSBEAP in the past year. And really some of them were for programs that did not really fall under the guise of NSBEAP, let's just say. So if it's something very specific for something that you do in regard to SBEAP at your place of business, yes, please record that. I hope that that answered the question thoroughly. If it didn't, please just let me know.
Yeah. Go ahead, wait. And so this is Sarah. So on to continue on that line, some states have their own social media. So they have just like Tennessee SBEAP. New Hampshire doesn't have that. I have to use our organizations, our whole departments. So when I put down how many followers, I'm using the department ones, but I'm only counting the posts that I post, not what the whole agency is posting.
Yes, that also, thank you, Sarah, for that. So
And
for
then,
us, we have like a division Facebook that we kind of share. And so, yeah, I'm making what's considered bureau posts, but some of those posts are specific to our group. But we at New Jersey don't have our own SB profile at all. Yeah.
okay, so the main, this is from Terry, the main person for SB has been gone for about a month, and she has the, when is the date of the survey due? The survey is due March 15th. So if you get someone in before then, put their name in. If not, the real reason we're asking for SBO contacts is to help us update our webpage for contact information. So that changes constantly. We just figured this was a great opportunity to try to get as many as we could, so we have them up on the webpage.
Okay, so can you hear me? This is Terry from New Mexico.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So Roseanne Sanchez has been
Mhm.
sick. We
Okay.
do not know when she is coming back. And
Cool.
I have not been collecting the data as far as the work that we have done. And so I actually don't have the data to put into the survey because we were not foreseeing that she would be gone so long.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so we basically don't have data. Um, and I'm not sure if she will be back prior to March 15th, to tell you the
Okay.
truth. Yeah.
Some of them, okay, so there's lots of our questions aren't data driven. Like who's your contact? Where are
Oh,
you
okay.
located?
Uh-huh.
What kind of special projects do you work on? Are you
Uh-huh.
multimedia? So fill out those questions that you know you
Okay.
can answer, because
Oh,
then
okay.
then
Okay.
we have a little delay for when the report comes out, so we
Mm-hmm.
might be able to grab that data later. But
Okay.
so just do
Okay.
your best, Terry.
Okay. I have the numbers for myself.
Oh, great.
Yes, as far as what I've done, of course, in my reports, but I don't have her numbers,
Okay.
so I cannot put in, how many, small business
Sure.
projects we have worked on.
Right. But you would know the type. Like one of the
Uh-huh.
questions
Okay.
is, do you
Okay.
work in brownfields?
Uh-huh.
Do you work in asbestos?
Oh, okay.
I don't do either of those things. But
Uh-huh.
there's some small business
Yeah.
assistance programs do. So that's just a
Okay.
click.
Okay. I'll
Okay.
fill out what I can.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And then let's see, Stephanie, permit assistance would, all right, for permit assistance, would that be any information provided to a customer about a permit, or would it you want the number of customers assisted walking through a permit, helping them out? The answer is yes to both of those.
Yes. Yep. Any assistance in regard to the permit is something that we wanted to capture here. The difference would be, and we capture that later on in the survey when we ask about emails and phone calls being made. If a facility has a question that's not necessarily directly related to a permit specifically, and you answer that question, you would capture those emails, visits that you might have, phone calls that you might have, in that spot. So anything that's related directly to a permit would be here, whether or not it was that you sat with them and walked them through the permit or just helped answer a question regarding a permit.
Okay. Next one is Michael's. For those of us multimedia programs, if we also run the Radon program, which by the way, we added that on this question for you because we knew about it, Radon program, do we include the analytics of what that program does as well? So if your outreach included to small businesses on Radon, then I would include that because that's what you're doing. Or if you did a site visit on Radon at a small business, then I would count that. So if it went out to the masses, to homeowners, let's say you did a post about homeowners in the Radon program, then I probably would not count that one because that's not geared towards small businesses. Does that help, Michael?
It does sorta. I guess I have a unique situation where 50% of my time is SBO, and the other half, which it's growing more, is my radon program because I'm the state radon coordinator as well. So is Eleanor Diver in Utah. And so, and she's mentioned this before in the past, that both of us are having to split our roles. And my outreach is not only to assist the residents of Montana, but I've been growing the population of radon mitigators as well as providing training because obviously being the regional expert in radon, I'm also being invited to other groups to include the National Standards Committee for the rewrite of the standards. And so I'm growing my population of mitigators, and I've actually quadrupled them in just 1.5 years statewide. So we're directly dealing, or I should say I am, because it's just me, are growing the mitigator community in addition to specific industries that I'm targeting. So those interactions would be included in our analytics.
I think the stuff, the mitigators are, a lot of them, I'm sure, are small businesses, correct?
They are, whether they're a standalone mitigator or if they're adding it to their business platform, because I'm targeting specific industries. And the industries I'm talking about are plumbers, electricians, HVACs, excavation, and general contractors. So I'm into a lot of networks out here that may not be part of your norm, but because of the outreach and obviously awareness, but in the assistance role, and growing basically a recruitment kind of format, I'm kind of tethering both my programs together to benefit both SBEAP and the radon program.
Yes. And I think that is exactly why we updated this form, is for people like you. So in addition to counting some of that, because you are working with small businesses, but at the end, there's these open-ended questions that you could explain your work with those radon programs and those mitigators and how you're expanding into these other areas. That's the story we want to tell for other things. So if we could somehow write it up in a text or a case study or whatever you want to do, there's those other options at the end where you could explain that better to us, and we'll figure out what goes into the data collection side versus what we'll use later for storytelling for examples of what our programs do.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Well, my other question is, since I already submitted, but I wanted to jump on this call specifically for this
Sure.
question. Can I modify it? Because if it's already been submitted, it's going to look like a duplicate or may not even be an option. Is it possible to modify or edit, or just outright delete so I could start over?
Jordan?
Because
Yeah, there's no way to modify, unfortunately, but yes, I can see all the duplicates, so I can just delete your previous entry and it won't be a big deal.
okay, because if I resubmit another survey, I don't want it to cause a problem.
Nope,
mean,
I'll see it. It'll be all good.
It could be noted moving forward to not mess you up, or I include it because we're just having a rather crushing year as far as radon. I wish I had more assistance, but it's overwhelming at times, especially during January, which is National Radon Action Month.
Yep.
But we are blowing things up here, and it's just I mean, we have outreach, don't get me wrong, and I'm actually networking into other agencies as well, like Labor and Industry and Department of Transportation and just petroleum marketers and convenience store associations, all these associations I'm just getting into for SBEAP and radon, but mostly SBEAP. And I just want to make sure that, I mean, if we're including radon, that it's being appropriately applied for your survey.
Right. And what I would say again is a lot of those radon are small businesses. So those are the parts we want to include. And one of the reasons we are having is we're very good at our job for outreach. So then other programs say, hey, why doesn't the SB do this too, since you're so good at that part? And so it puts us out farther and farther. But you are doing small business work. So we definitely want to collect it. And don't worry, if we have questions, Michael, we'll be calling you to answer question things and to figure it out. So it's no worries. So just go for it.
Okay, I will redo another survey then.
Thank you. All right, then there was a question about,
Yeah, the next question Lena asked, there was
Okay.
like two parts to it. She asked if the data entry, if she has to save the data entry after submittal or as a file midway. Jordan answered that it will automatically save. So if you reopen the link at a later time, it will save the data that you already entered. So that's kind of similar to what you all witnessed with me once I clicked the next page, and it already had the yes bubble filled for translating publications. That's similar. It remembered that I had already clicked that link. And then the second question that Lena had was, can we finally download the data and the questions we entered for record keeping? That is what the PDF should be used for. So once you hit submit, there's no way to save your data that you entered into Qualtrics. That just automatically goes to Jordan. But again, that is why we do have that PDF version. So definitely I would say for any advice as you're filling out, have your first stop be that PDF form, collect your information there, save it so that you can have it, and then use it to fill out the online tool. Oh, yeah.
okay, is there any other questions?
For the social media question, is that specific? Oh, well, we already answered that one.
answered that one.
Yeah. Okay. Then I think that was all that I saw in the chat, but if anybody has any additional questions, please, like, now would be a good time for like an open forum conversation about it.
For the translation question,
Yes.
like we don't translate our publications, but we link to some like from other programs that do. So it's not really like we're translating. It's just when there are translations available, we link to them. Would that, I'm guessing that wouldn't really count for what we're looking for. Is that right?
I would say that it doesn't, only because we're looking for direct translation of your own
Yeah.
internal documents. But Sarah, if you have a different idea of what we're trying to capture with that question.
One of the things we were trying to capture is our SBEEPs trying to translate whatever guidance documents that we create into other languages because we see there's a need for that. So I would say, but just by linking to someone else's, I mean,
Yeah,
unless
if
it's
it's
a
not
huge
ours.
yeah. But if you want to put it in the other, that in addition, while this doesn't, we do try to link to other options. If there's like if EPA has a guidance document that's also in Spanish, we try to link to that so they can find it. I think that belongs in that question 30-ish number. This we are trying to do this.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
And
on that question, okay,
go ahead.
No, on that question, I had a question because we do translate, but not all, only some certain ones. So when we answer, does it imply that we translate everything we do?
I think that's an excellent point. That is true. I have, okay, yeah. So when I filled out the PDF, I'm working on mine, the PDF, and I did say, yes, I do translate. I don't translate everything. I guess I didn't assume. Gabe, are you on? What do you think?
I mean, Sarah, I think that your initial point is fine. And the thing here is that because so many states differ, we can make a survey that encapsulates every single individual facet of every program, but that's going to result in a survey that takes 2 hours to complete. So I think if you aren't sure if something applies, you could always just put in the other category, like Sarah said, and the survey team can review it that way. But I do agree that I think that still including that information could be helpful as well.
Yeah, and I understand that the concern there is making it seem like you've translated all of your documents if you've only translated a few. But we're not necessarily asking in that question, are all of your documents translated? We're just trying to see how many states have any translated documents, if any at all. So even if it's one, we're trying to capture that. And then we can see, what is the most common? Is there a specific need for translation? Is that something that maybe the NSC that we could potentially help for in the future? You know, because this survey is all about, again, identifying our strengths and areas for growth and seeing what resources that we might need and be able to pool and share. So if it turns out that, you know, if somebody has like a really great program that they've been using to help them with translations, we might be able to share that tool. So it's not really trying to count, you know, are all of your documents translated? It's just, is anything translated? And how did you go about doing that? And could you maybe help this state that would really love to have translated documents, but they're kind of having a difficulty getting that done? So I think that that's ultimately what our goal was with that question, unless like, is absolutely everything being translated? So just, again, answer it to the best of your ability. And even if it's like one compliance calendar that's been translated, that still qualifies for a yes in that answer.
So the only other thing I'd like to share is I've done this survey, I don't know, 10, 15 times now. And every year I think I'm doing a better job of how I'm collecting data. And gosh darn it, I did it again. I did not do it correctly. I've got to come up with a better way to keep track. It's the questions on outreach of how many new publications, how many new social media posts, how many new newsletters, of all these things. And I haven't figured out a good way to collect. I tell myself I'm going to figure it out, but then I forget when it's August, then I'm actually filling out my database and then I'm not. So we're going to probably have to have some kind of other training to discuss how you're collecting that particular data so I can do it easier just for me, or I'm sure others would want to know how to do that. But there's got to be better ways. My Oracle database is not doing what it needs to do. And
Yeah,
I'm
and
sure many
yeah.
of you feel the same way.
We use an Access database, and I've been wondering if there's like more updated software that we could be using to record it as well. So yeah, that would be a cool opportunity for a future meeting to just see like what tools other groups are using and if they have any preferred methods.
And lastly, we did find a bug in the original PDF. Jordan has fixed it. So the new one is up online for the PDF. So if you downloaded it before, make sure you go back up to the web page and download the updated PDF. Otherwise it doesn't, there's a couple little spots that has a little bug. Most of it is the same, but just a couple little things. Any other questions? Are you excited? I know I was excited when I started filling out my data today. And Lena, did we stop the recording already?
Not yet. I am about to. Should I?
Yes.
I mean, no other questions. I can.
Yeah. Thank you.
To think, Sarah, you were worried that I wouldn't be able to run through it all in about
You
40